Welcome back to Talking Dragon Age, the show where I talk about Dragon Age. This episode is all about tranquility. Now, I want to give a special thanks right away to A.G. Samuels, who really helped out with gathering information for this episode. In fact, she wrote an entire research paper that I'm going to leave a link to in the description. Speaking of which, I always welcome the help, so feel free to send me any information I might have missed. Also, if there are any talented artists in the audience, you can send me some fan art, and I might end up using it in a video. Even if it's something you don't think I'll need, I'm probably going to need it at some point. You'd be surprised how many images I need that don't exist. I usually end up having to bullshit my way around it, using text on screen, repeating images too much, etc. Anyway, tranquility. To make sure we're all on the same page here, the Rite of Tranquility is a practice created by the Seekers of Truth which involves rendering someone completely devoid of all emotion and severing any connection to the Fade. Someone who is made tranquil can literally not feel emotion. Happiness, sadness, fear, excitement, love, all of it is completely gone. For mages, it also leaves them completely unable to cast spells. Now, if anyone in the audience is a sociopath or an executive at EA and literally has no concept of morality, this may be difficult to understand for you, but this is not okay. This is effectively removing someone's entire self. Now, if they chose it, that might be one thing. Or if it's temporary, like with the Seeker's Vigil, that might be one thing, provided they knew what was happening beforehand. But forcing it on people, especially with no hope of it ever being reversed, that's evil. Now, there are mages that choose it of their own free will. One notable example is a woman named Orana, who was brought to the Kirkwall Circle when she was only 5 years old. She was plagued by horrible nightmares that only got worse. She became terrified of falling asleep. From the lack of sleep, her health suffered, she became paranoid, and even began to hallucinate slightly. When she was 11, she requested to be made tranquil. Her health returned, and she was able to sleep, albeit with no dreams at all. I think that can largely be blamed on the Kirkwall Circle for not giving her proper help, but I can certainly understand her decision. As for other mages that cannot control their abilities, if all other options have been exhausted, I can see offering them the choice of tranquility or death. But I'd like to point out that in the Magi origin, there's a small area that suppresses magic and renders mages unable to cast spells in that area. Why are there not more of these? Can they not set up rooms like this as prison cells? Maybe it's a lot of work or energy, but would 1 or 2 per circle be so much to ask? Anyway, that's besides the point. We're here to talk about tranquility. Though we all know how it's used in the circle these days, the discovery of how it affects mages was actually made by complete accident, since its original purpose was just for the vigil for the Seekers of Truth. The effect it had on mages was only discovered when a mage tried to become one. After that, it became a last resort for mages who couldn't control their abilities, with the idea being that it was better than killing them. Over time, it became a weapon, a constant threat against any mage and often used unjustly. There has always been a way to reverse it and restore the person's self. However, the Seekers of Truth kept this a close secret, even from most of their own order. However, mages who undergo a reversal have a much harder time than non-mages. The influx of emotion, combined with their stronger connection to the Fade, means that they are left almost hysterical, suffer from extreme mood swings, and are unable to concentrate. Cassandra is now looking into this and hoping there is a way to help them through that, until she knows for sure she's not letting word spread too much.
Mages who were once tranquil lose all control over their emotions. They become irrational, unable to focus. Perhaps that state eventually passes and they can be helped, but it will take time to investigate.
But you are going to look into it?
That is my intent. I would not want news of a cure to spread until we know for certain we can help these people. Once we have that, however, then I will spread the word myself.
I think she's doing the right thing here. In the book Asunder, Divine Justinia asked Pharamond, a tranquil elf, to look into tranquility and see if there was a way to remove a mage's abilities without also removing their emotion and self, much to the dismay of Lord Seeker Lambert. Long story short, Pharamond reversed his tranquility, but in the process, a lot of people died. He suffered greatly from what I mentioned before. In the end, he never got the help he deserved. He was sentenced to be made tranquil again. He was killed before that happened, though, which is what he preferred. It's a tragedy for him the whole way through, and it's what sparked the Mage Rebellion. I don't think any one group is solely responsible for what happened, but I do think the Seekers really dropped the ball when it came to handling tranquility. Anyway, I want to present an idea. When a dreamer is killed in the Fade, they become tranquil. I've brought up a few times that this could mean Felassan survived his encounter with Solas at the end of the Masked Empire. I always assumed Solas didn't know that would happen, But looking more into Elvenon, I suppose it's possible that he did know. In any event, it's never said that he did anything to Felassan's body, so I'm clinging to hope one way or another. Maybe, in his rage, he just didn't care. I wouldn't put it past him, because when Solas loses his temper, he loses his temper. Remember the whole creating the Veil and destroying the Elven Empire thing?
They killed Mythal. A crime for which an eternity of torment is the only fitting punishment.
I've always found Solas's temper to be an interesting concept. A servant of Corypheus tries to utilize time magic. He stays calm. Corypheus attacks and destroys Haven. He stays calm. An Avar cult nearly leads their god to possess a dragon and attack the lowlands. He stays calm. A Titan causes increasingly devastating earthquakes. He stays calm. The Qunari nearly invade southern Thedas by way of the Alluvian network. He stays calm. The Grey Wardens try to kill the old gods, and oh my god, what is wrong with them? I need to kill them all! Rah, bah, bah. It's like there's no middle ground. It's like he's calm, mildly annoyed, or pissed off like it's the end of the goddamn world. So anyway, if he did know what would happen to Felassan after his death in the Fade, I can see him regretting his decision later, but in the moment, I'm not sure he would have cared. But it does bring up an interesting notion of whether or not tranquility was ever used in Elvenon. With the Veil not being present, it's kind of hard to say since everyone should have always had ready access to the Fade. Even if they were made tranquil, spirits were commonplace, meaning it shouldn't have been that difficult to reverse. Also, the scene in DA2 when Justice first comes out in front of Karl, the Tranquil, he is temporarily cured. He describes it as Anders bringing a piece of the Fade into this world, although that should technically be true of any spell. Regardless, if that's all it took, I'm not sure how it could have been used in Elvenon. The knowledge that a dreamer's death in the Fade would render them tranquil most likely came from ancient Tevinter after the Veil's creation. The Rite of Tranquility today works very differently, though I have to wonder how the discovery even happened. It involves branding Lyrium into the person, but that's obviously not all of it. How does something like this happen by accident? And if it wasn't an accident, then why would anyone have been looking into doing this to a person in the first place? And how did they learn that branding Lyrium into them is the way to do it? And who figured out that summoning a spirit to touch the person's mind would restore them and grant them special powers? Since it wasn't originally meant for mages, whose idea was it? I'm thinking it probably happened something like this. Someone was experimenting with Lyrium to see if branding it into a person might make them a mage or otherwise grant them special powers. They kept trying different things until eventually they were left tranquil. Eventually, a spirit was consulted, and so the spirit touched the person's mind, and boom. That's my best guess. In any event, I want to take some time to talk about a Tranquil's ability, specifically the possibility of a Tranquil Companion. The only limitation of Tranquil is that they will only act if there is a logical reason to do so. In Asunder, after Pharamond has been cured, Evangeline says to him, "The Tranquil do nothing they're not asked to." To which Pharamond replies, "That's not true. We have free will. We just desire nothing. We strive for nothing." If a Tranquil had reason to learn how to use a blade or a bow to defend themselves, they would theoretically be able to do so. It's just that they never had a reason to until the Mage Rebellion. It is tough to imagine them being so active, but it's not that they're incapable. Okay, I think I'm about ready to wrap this up. To recap, the Rite of Tranquility is morally questionable, to say the least. Cassandra is looking into a way to safely reverse it for mages. I don't think Tranquility was used in Elvenon, but it is certainly a possibility. Solas may or may not have known what would happen by killing Felassan in the Fade, and Felassan may or may not still be alive. Whether it's him or someone else, I would love a Tranquil Companion. Their perspective on tense or otherwise emotional events and circumstances, I think, would be spellbinding. Pun intended. So, once again, I want to say if anyone wants to send me some fan art from Dragon Age, you can find my email address under the About tab on my channel. That's it for now, guys. Thank you so much for watching, and remember, Tala Nadas.